So now we're ready for section 2.2, which is slope and rate of change. Why do we do slope and rate of change? We do it to find things like the change of altitude when we're flying, to find slopes of skateboard ramps. It also helps us in creating equations of lines in the next couple sections. To start out with, let's take care of our definition of slope, which we use the variable m for slope. Slope is the ratio of vertical change to horizontal change. A lot of times we think of it as rise over run. Okay, so think of slope as rise over run. The vertical change to the horizontal change. The slope m of the line passing through the points x1, y1, and x2, y2 is m equals, we just talked about rise over run. You take the y value minus the y value over the x value minus the x value. So it's the change in y's over the change in x's. Find the slope of the line passing through the points. So first let's label these points. Let's say this is point x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. So now if I want to find the slope, I need to take y2, which is -1, minus -4, that's y1, all over x2, which is 3, minus x1, which is -2. Now when I find this, of course I should change the signs. Those become plus +4. -1 plus 4 is 3, over, again, change the signs to plus +2, and it becomes 3 plus 2, which is 5. So the slope then is 3/5. Now, sometimes people ask me, can you take y1 minus y2? Yes, you definitely can take y1 minus y2 on the top, but then you have to make sure on the bottom that you start with x1. So you can do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. There's a boy crying. Now, let's talk about positive, negative, zero, and undefined slope. You know that something has a positive slope if the line is going up from left to right. Notice if you start on the left of that pink line and you go to the right, that is going up. That's a positive slope. A negative slope then would be when it falls from left to right. So again, start on the left of the line and it's going down to the right, so that means it's a negative slope. Then we have zero slope. That's a horizontal line because the rise is 0 and the run goes on forever. So that's horizontal because it would be like rise over run, it'd be 0 over whatever number, which would be 0. Undefined, that is a vertical line. And the reason why it's vertical and why we call it undefined is because the rise can go on forever, but there's no run. So if you think about rise over run, if the run is 0, then you'd have a fraction with 0 in the denominator, and that's an undefined number. So that means it's an undefined slope. Without graphing these 2 points, is the graph rising, falling, horizontal, or vertical? Well, really, all we need to know is the slope. So again, I'm going to go ahead and label these points, x1, y1, and x2, y2. So to find the slope, it would be 5 minus 3 over 1 minus -2. That's just using my slope formula. So that leaves me with 2 over, again, change those signs to plus positive. So it would be 2 over 3. Now, if you look at that slope, that is a positive number. So that means that the graph is rising because the slope is positive. Next one. Again, if you labeled these points x1, y1 and x2, y2, just to show you that this can be done, this time I'm going to go y1 minus y2. So I'm going to use -2 minus -2 over 1 minus 3. Now, what's going to happen here? If I change those signs, negative 2 plus 2 is 0 over, and if you want to change these signs, this would become plus negative 3. So that would give me negative 2 in the denominator. That slope is 0. Because 0 is in the numerator, the slope is 0. So if it's a 0 slope, remember what's happening in 0 slope. That is a horizontal line. So for this answer, we'd put horizontal. Next, another definition, parallel lines. Parallel lines are parallel if and only if they have the same slope. So the slope of the first line has to equal the slope of the second line in order for them to be parallel. Perpendicular lines. The lines are perpendicular if and only if their slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other. Which means if I have the slope of one line, it has to be the negative reciprocal of the second line. For example, if I had a slope of 2/3, the perpendicular line would have to then have a slope of negative 3/2. Okay, so you'd take the opposite reciprocal for them to be perpendicular. Are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Well, the first thing we need to do is find the slope. So if I take line 1, again, assume you've labeled those x1, y1, and x2, y2. I would take negative 7 minus 3 over 0 minus 0. That would leave me with negative 10 over 0. Well, now that's an undefined slope. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that, undefined. Now, if you remember, that would also be a vertical line. Undefined slope would be a vertical line. Line 2, if I find the slope for that one, that would leave me with negative 4 minus negative 4 all over 12 minus negative 6. And again, if we do some sign changes right off the bat, negative 4 plus 4 is 0. 12 plus 6 is 18. Well, now that's a 0 slope. Remember, 0 slope is a horizontal line. So this one you have to think outside the box a little bit. If you have a vertical line, so a vertical line would be going straight up and down this way. Notice this is a rough sketch. And a horizontal line would be going left to right this way. What kind of lines do we have then? Those would definitely be meeting at a right angle if they were perfectly vertical and perfectly horizontal. So this would be perpendicular lines. So that would be our answer for that problem, perpendicular. The next one. If I take the slope of line 1, again, it's going to be negative 2 minus negative 2 all over 3 minus 1. On the top, we're going to end up with 0, and on the bottom, 2. So again, my slope is 0, and that would be a horizontal line. Now we scoot over to line 2. If I find that slope, it's going to be 4 minus 4 all over 0 minus negative 5. So that would give me 0 over 5 in the denominator. So again, my slope is 0. So now I have another horizontal line. And again, we got to think a little bit about this. If I have two horizontal lines, those are actually parallel. So our answer for that one would be parallel. Now, just to remind you, if you did those problems and you came out with 2/3 and 2/3, those are the same, so you'd end up with parallel lines. And again, if you came up with 1/4, the reciprocal, the opposite reciprocal of that would be negative 4/1, which is -4. Those would be perpendicular. Whoa, learn how to spell. There's a little R in here. See it? Cheat. Perpendicular. Okay? And that concludes section 2.2.